So we've taken the high ground of being able to capture that invisible thing called strategy and make it tangible through the strategy map and weightings. We've then been able to link our performance against each of those strategic objectives. So we've got the monitoring part nailed. Now comes the tough part. How do we translate that strategy into action? How can we make sure our processes and projects are aligned to those strategic objectives and contributing in proportion to what the strategy calls for? To show you this, I'll use a sample municipal government example. Again, this is from the region of Peel and is indicative of their business processes, but all the data is fictitious. So if we take a strategy map, we should be able to lift down the left axis the key strategic objectives and their weightings. And across the top, the key and core processes or process groupings in the organization. So we've consolidated 250 specific processes into an aggregate of 9 process groupings. To some extent they may resemble departments, but in many cases they cross over multiple groups. What we should be able to do is take a look at each of those processes and evaluate their impact and performance against each strategic objective. A simple example here is, say, an order fulfillment process. If we take a look at, say, Tim Hortons, if you ask for a double-double and they give you a black, you complain and they just give you another coffee. But if I take a look at another order fulfillment process, say, handing out babies at the hospital, there's a much greater significant and strategic impact around getting that process done correctly. The objective it links to is way more important, so the process performance standards that we expect are way higher. We have to have a higher performance level in the integrity of getting that baby order correct. So the idea is, if a process has a high impact on a highly weighted strategic objective, we better do that process incredibly well. So as we rate and rank these processes, we can begin to identify which processes are working well. So in this case, resource management, you can see it's meeting expectations. That group of processes are green all the way down. Everything is fine. If we take a look at another group, let's say communications, there's a bunch of reds and yellows which indicate that that process cluster is not performing to the high standards we would like. But what we can also do is look at the invisible thing, the strategy, horizontally. Now, this isn't clustered this way within the work that we did, but you could think of some of these processes as representing the front line and some the back office. In fact, this is where we started the seminar with the 3 overlapping circles. The idea of the strategy should link to the front line processes and the back office processes, and we should be able to see how these things integrate together, like the Venn diagram over here. So if we take a look at, say, the strategy of maximizing revenue in this example, you can see that we're likely to achieve that objective because every single process that touches it is performing at or above expectations. But if I take a look at other objectives, like, for example, retaining the right people, that objective is at risk because although we have a number of processes that line up to them, many of them are red or yellow, which means they're performing below target. That strategic objective is at risk. So what we've been able to do here is visually represent how our processes are supporting the strategic objectives.